Hey guys, it's Doc Lyle, and it's another week of What Did I Pick Up at the Comic Shop? What did I pick up? It's not a huge stack. Like I said, my hours have gotten cut back at work, so I've had to cut back on the books that I get each and every week, but it's still some awesome reads. So, to start with, our book of the week this week is Arcadia, issue number 6 by the Inaki and Roy Miranda, the Miranda brothers, and colored by Eva de la Cruz. This book is an emotional gut punch after emotional gut punch after emotional gut punch. It's crazy how this book started off slowly compared to their first miniseries that they did for Aftershock Comics a couple of years ago. But this one is so much more personal, because at the last issue, you got to see Halu, one of the main characters, find his father and then lose his father. And now Halu and his girlfriend Fix are heading to try to find Arcadia, because it was a promise that he made to his father that he would find this place and that he would accept his immortality, so that his father's sacrifice was not in vain. And they've got this big giant monster truck that they get into a city, and all of a sudden a missile blows the monster truck on its side and they have to shoot their way out. This artwork is energetic. It just blows you away when you sit there and you look at it. The different panel compositions, you get to see characters right there in the middle of the fray. It's amazing what these guys can do as far as the artwork and the story together. And at the very beginning, don't forget, you get these little QR codes so that you can go listen to some different music that goes along with the situation. So these guys are musicians as well as writers and artists. And in the end, you get to see them jump into this giant mech, and Fix says, hey, says here there's still some charge left in the Uber pill. And Halu says, that doesn't help much. I've never piloted one of these wrecks. And she says, you haven't, but he has. And so they find this skeleton of this pilot that had been inside this giant mech and had died. And Halu is able to use some of the Uber pill to attain his abilities. So you get to see this giant come back to life. It's just, it's almost like a steampunk type culture, but at the same time you get all of these amazing machines tied in with what's left of humanity, the remnants of humanity, I should say, because there are no humans left. But you get to see the big guy start laying waste to these robots, and then at the end he says there's too many of them. But then he charges what they call a thunder bomb and just decimates everything, including the Uber pill and the robot himself. So it says, please leave the mech. So it says abandon Mecca. So after all of that, you get to see, Brahm. And Brahm says, your father lost his immortality for what? And he's trying to bring his wife back to life because they got into an argument when he got drunk one night and he accidentally stabbed her and killed her. And so he's been trying to save her this entire time and bring her back to life. So whereas some people are trying to search for immortality, they're trying to honor their father's last dying wish, then Brahm is just trying to bring his wife back, who may or may not want to even be brought back. And in the end, you get, this little guy here who's on the cover as well. And he says, welcome, Miss Fix. Welcome to Arcadia, Mr. Halu. Welcome to the city where eternity conquers death. A setback pulled us off course, but don't worry, you're in good hands, and I will make sure that you reach your destination. Follow me, and I will guide you to immortality. And Halu is amazed and happy. He says, we're going to be immortal. And Fix starts crying. And there's something called the veil. And the veil is like a cancer, and it will kill these simulacrums that like Halu and Fix are. So it's pretty much death for somebody like them. And I'm not going to give away what happens on the last page of the book, but it will absolutely break your heart. If you're reading this and love these characters and love the story and the love story that is going on in this book, it will absolutely just cause you to fall apart and just break apart. So that's the book of the week, because it's a heartbreaker. Arcadia number 6. The runner-up, as always, is Battle Beast, issue number 11, by Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley. We have round 2 of the battle between Conquest and Battle Beast. And he had stabbed Conquest with his giant sword at the end of the last issue, and that didn't take Conquest out of the game. He says, you think you can hurt me? And it doesn't seem like Conquest got hurt very badly. So he says, this is getting good. And he jumps off the ground and flies like Superman. And these two are just going at it. They are intent on killing each other. They're intent on killing, the world. But the thing about it is, Battle Beast doesn't want to harm innocents. He just wants to find an opponent who is worthy to kill him. And he feels like he's found that in Conquest. And so, over here, Battle Beast bites Conquest's neck because he's a giant tiger. And in one of these panels here, let's see here, it looks like Conquest is starting to kind of pass out. And, his eyes are rolling up in the back of his head. And then he wakes back up and he says, fooled you! These Voltrumites, man. Robert Kirkman, you can tell, like I said before, in previous issues and previous episodes of this show, you can tell that Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley love this character, love this series. They're just having a blast. Because Ryan Ottley has said a long time ago that once he finished his run on Amazing Spider-Man, that he didn't intend to do another long run on a monthly book. So I don't know how long we can run with this, with Battle Beast, coming up against these foes that just get bigger and bigger and bigger. I would say that this will probably run for 25 issues, if I had to guess, but it might be shorter than that. I'm not saying Conquest is going to kill him next month, but it could be that this book only runs for 15 or 16 issues before it's done. Because eventually you run up against a bigger bad. Okay, that's what my father taught me when I was growing up. He said, no matter how big and how bad you think you are, you're going to always run up against somebody who's bigger and badder than you. And they run up on this giant wyvern, and it's bigger and badder than both of them. But you get to see Conquest try to rip the heart out of that wyvern, and instead Battle Beast used his sword, and he says, I can turn anything into a weapon, prepared to die screaming in agony. And Conquest follows up with, I worry you haven't been paying attention. You think you can escape me with that? I didn't take you for a coward. And so Battle Beast pretty much slices the throat of the dragon at that point and tries to drown Conquest in the blood. So this is one bloody, bloody book, but it's great and it's fun. And I'm kind of upset now because I'm looking on the back and I see where there was a Mark Bagley cover for this book. And would like to have gotten that. So maybe I can make it by the shop, later this week and pick up the Bagley variant. Okay, what's next? We have the continuation of Dork with issue number 6. And this is by Brett Bean and Frank William and Nate Picos. And here you get to see, whether you want it or not, the origin story between this orc and this dwarf of who Dork is. and the Fate, who lives inside this what's the word I'm looking for? Not amulet, but inside this crystal that Dork has been put inside. He says, years passed as light and dark armies became forever entrenched in endless war. The dead piled high, both innocent and guilty, tainting the soil red, creating the scar. Until at last there were but two survivors. The light dwarf and the dark orc had come to a standstill. Neither could win. Locked in everlasting combat, they shared their ferocity, determination, and pain together. So day by day, as the world burned around them, they softened their gazes. And so she had nice thighs, and he had nice eyes. So you get this, and Dork is like, oh, gross! Is that my parents? And so you get to see the origin of Dork, and this double page spread right here, which is awesome. Brett Bean's artwork really pulls you into this. I think if they were to ever do another set of Nintendo comics, I think that he would be a dead ringer for Zelda, with a close second being the team of Jim Chung and Don Hillsman II. I think either one of those guys would be great for a Zelda book because it gives you that adventurousness and that kinetic energy that you're looking for, and at the same time you get kind of that artwork that is whimsical, and it would pull you right in to the Legend of the Triforce and Zelda and Link and everything that comes with it. But anyway, so eventually Dork figures out that he can escape from the crystal, and that's exactly what he does. And he tells the witch that had imprisoned him in the last issue, he says, I'm not going to hurt you, but I will if you, and she says, yes, tell me off. Shield gets uppity, boo-hoo, everybody's mad at the mean old witch, there's no time for that. And here comes Glowing Spear, who last we saw we thought was mortally injured at the hands of Dork a few issues ago. So you get a real bombshell at the end of the issue. And let's see. So who is Dork's father? That's the image that you have to try to figure out at the end of the book. And I'm not going to give that away. I'm not going to spoil that. But if the last issue or two didn't really draw me in and keep me entertained, this particular issue definitely did. So Dork is still one of the top books from Image. Unfortunately, White Sky didn't make the cut. All right, next up, we have The Walking Dead Deluxe 141 by Robert Kirkman with art by Charlie Adler and Stefano Guardiano, and colors by Dave McCaig. And the main thing here is you get Dwight having some leadership issues. And he's like, I don't know that I want to rule. I don't know that I want to be in charge of the Saviors. And Rick says, look, he says, I want out. And Rick says, look, I didn't put you in charge of the Saviors. You took control after Negan fell. The people looked to you to lead. They were okay with you stepping in after Negan was locked up. They chose you. So you need to tell them you want to step down and let them choose a new leader. It's the right thing to do. You need to have an election. And then you get the bombshell that Rick walks down into the cellar and sees that Negan's cell is open, but Negan is still in there. And he threatens him, and he pulls a pistol on Negan. And he says, look at Grandpa Grimes sluggishly going for his gun. How high can you even lift that thing? Enough to reach my face, or you'll be going for a gut shot. And it says, are you sure your arm's strong enough? It's been doing a lot of cane work these days. Does that make it stronger or wear it out? And so Negan tries to convince, and of course Negan's got a potty mouth, so I can't really show you much in this issue, but he tries to convince Rick. He's like, look, I could have left anytime I wanted to. I could have slept with Andrea. I could have done whatever I wanted to. I could have destroyed this world that you had put together, or at least tried. But I didn't do any of that. And so Rick says, I'm just going to keep you here. He's like, I'm going to keep you here. And Rick and Andrea talk about it later in the issue. And she says, I saw her lock the door. I heard it click. I have no idea how that could have happened. And he says, the door was open. That's all I know. But Andrea still wants Rick to kill Negan to make a point. And Rick says, no, is it not more benevolent of me and trying to show that we're different and that we're not the same people, he and I, if I let him live? And, and there's always a chance that if he lives, he can be redeemed. Even though Rick doesn't truly believe that he can be redeemed, he says, let's see. If I'm going to lead these people, they need to respect me. They need to look up to me. They need to see me as more capable. Not better, but more capable than they are. To a certain extent, I'm what holds this place together. Killing Negan is the expected thing. Killing Negan is what everyone wants. He says, I'm the one who doesn't kill. I'm the one who says there's a better way. And I think that makes me a leader. So, like I said, this book is still strong. Now, I don't think it drops off until the 150s or 160s. But you still get to see Rick Grimes trying to build a better world rather than the one that they are seemingly stuck in. Okay, next to last book is going to be Something Epic. And this was also a very strong contender for what was Book of the Week. First of all, you get this Friday the 13th cover, which was awesome. And on the inside, you get to see Noah and Deductive go to this creepy house where a guy named Vincent lives. Let's see if we can give y'all some double-page spread of this stuff. But Vincent is supposed to help Noah kind of tap into her abilities to go into the world of horror. She said, nothing scares me. I don't scare easily. Horror doesn't really do much for me. And she said, so that world, it's locked and it's closed off to me. And in the end, a slip of paper comes underneath the door. And it says, who played the first Dracula? And Deductive says, I bet he's testing us the wrong answer, and the door stays shut. And so he says, Bela Lugosi. And she says, you're always thinking with your stomach, aren't you? Anyway, I don't see any Italian places around here. And he's like, no, Bela Lugosi was an actor, the first Dracula. And she said, wasn't that Gary Oldman? And, oh, man. You just leapfrogged all the classics, the Hammer films, and Christopher Lee himself. And so she says, Bela Lugosi. Now, it doesn't open, I told you. Sounds like some sort of pasta. Then Deductive. And see, that's what I like about the series is you get all of these little tidbits of knowledge that even, somebody like me didn't know. And it says, back in 1921, there was this Austrian silent film called Dracula's Death, but it was lost and destroyed, the stuff of legend. But if that story is true, then the first on-screen Dracula is unknown. And the door opens. So then they go inside, and Vincent tries to scare Deductive by jumping out and looking pretty much like Norman Bates' mother. And instead, they sit there and talk to Vincent, and Vincent says, let's see, to reach the land of horror, you're going to have to feel fear, real fear, like someone who hears their sentence before their name is called. There is no other way. And he says, there must be something that you fear. So eventually they go in to this room, and you get to see all of the scary bits that are in Vincent's head are locked behind this head that has 3 different locks on it, the 2 eyes and the mouth. And, let's see, he and Deductive are talking, and he says, it's a vault or repository that I've built. Deductive says, why are its mouth and eyes closed? And he says, because they have to be. It's the only way. The way for what? To block them out. To block my thoughts out. And Deductive says, that bad, huh? And he says, you have no idea. So eventually, they come to this area that to me is one of the coolest things I've ever thought about. And they go through this door, and it opens up to a bunch of other doors. And apparently the deal with this setup is that it's doors that connect to the universe of all the other epics. I almost said supers. But these doors connect to the other epics. And he says, sometimes when I'm really lonely, I open mine and I look to see if someone on the other side has opened theirs too. And Noah says, and then? And he says, we talk for hours sometimes about everything and nothing. But the idea that you have all of these people that have the same type of power, although it's different with every epic. Every single epic has something different about them. But they all have this shared ability. And they don't really have anybody in the outside world that they can talk to and share this gift with. So they have to share it with each other. So it's interesting to see the levels of epicness that Simon Kodransky, who's the writer and the artist on this book, and that's why it says one-man art. So it's a one-man production pretty much, and the last page is a real shocker. You get like really pulled in about what's going to happen next. How can things get even bigger than they already are? So there's that. And this book, thank you for coming back, because it's a blast. Meanwhile, we have the final issue of Murder Podcast, written by Jeremy Hahn, with illustrations by Andy McDonald and colored by Nick Filardi. And pretty much what happens is you get your group of friends, they go inside this area to try to shut this cult down that is doing the Dead Sounds podcast. And with a little bit of luck, a little bit of help, excuse me guys, they do. But is it truly the end? Because here I am going to throw some spoilers out. Spoiler number 1. 3, 2. Gina Kyle, one of the original podcasters, is actually alive, and she's not controlling, but she's part of the machine that these cultists have created to cause the Murder Podcast to murder, cause people to murder. So that's the first spoiler. So and the second spoiler is at the end. Is this podcast really finished? Who knows? It might come back. So the art in this was great. I hate that they lost, I think it was Mike Trussard that did the first 6 issues of this, and then for some reason Andy McDonald came in and finished it with 7 and 8. I'm not really sure what that was all about, but just like most of the Ignition Press books, this was really, really a banger, guys. And if you missed out on it, wait for the trade. I think it's going to be the end of Volume 1, so I'm assuming Volume 2 is coming. We'll just have to wait and see how the sales did overall on this Ignition Press book. And guys, that's it for the haul this week. So thanks for joining me. By the way, I've got some really, really awesome news. As of yesterday, we hit 300 subscribers on the podcast here on the YouTube channel. So thank you so very much for each and every person who is out there and watches these videos, comments on these videos, shares these videos with your friends. I love doing this. This is a passion project for me. I think we're at year 2.5. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you guys watching these videos and me getting to share in this thing that we love to do, these comics that we enjoy, and getting to come each and every day in front of this camera and share my passion with you guys. So thank you so much. For my 300th subscriber, find one of your friends, share these videos with that friend, and then we can go march straight on to 301. But in the meantime, guys, please like, please subscribe to the channel. You've got more content coming up each and every day. So I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks again. Oh guys, I almost forgot, as an addition, the other thing I picked up this week is the DC Compact Comics, The New Frontier. This is written and illustrated by Darwyn Cooke and colored by Dave Stewart. And this captures the entire book in a easy to travel format. You still get to see everything in all the pages. So I've read this when it first came out. It was an amazing book. If you have not spent the time reading this, don't think that the cartoony artwork is not for you. Give it a shot. I promise you will like it. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to mention that because I forgot to pull that out of the bag and show you guys. But DC Comics, Compact Comics, The New Frontier by Darwyn Cooke and Dave Stewart.